Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for joining me, and ultimately thank you so much for gracing your presence here on my channel. I truly appreciate you stopping by and choosing me to be your entertainment for today. Alright, so let's get into this little synopsis of my spiritual journey. The reason why I chose to talk about this today is because maybe, it will help someone else kind of understand where they are in life, maybe inspire someone else to find themselves or find their purpose in life. So this is not to say, hey, I did this, so you do the same thing. This is just for inspirational purposes, motivational purposes, and just to share. It's early in the morning, so forgive my voice. But and just to share with you my experiences that as I go through life, right? So this journey back to 2015, where it all started. This is the year where I was awakened, okay? I was a senior in high school, just graduated, on my way to my first stop, freshman in college. This is the year where I was awoken. And when I tell you I was awoken, not just by what I was doing, and we're not going to touch too much basis on that because I like to keep this a very educational but G-rated type of, well, PG type of channel. But yeah, so it's early. So I was freshman in college, and like I said, it wasn't just about what I was doing at that time, but it was who I was around, what type of relationship I was in, how I viewed my household, and how I ended up viewing the world. This is the time where I was definitely going through depression. So when you go through depression, some people come out of it, some people don't. Some people come out of it looking at the brighter side. Some people come out of it going right back into it. Different phases, different stages of depression, different characteristics of it. So I'm not going to sit here and generalize it and say this is the only experience that you'll go through. But for me, it was one of the experiences that I went through. And depression just brought on a lot of just past experiences, not knowing myself, walking the halls of my high school, trying to better myself, but didn't know where to start. And it wasn't that I was in a bad, well, it wasn't that I was like on the wrong path, but I was around so many different people that I thought I was alone, right? So this is the time where I'm in this really toxic relationship. And I'm not going to say that the person was toxic per se, because I don't like to speak bad about anybody because of karma and just how you speak life onto people and how we can, curse people with our words. But it was more so the person, it was a genuine relationship, but it was very toxic in the sense that our energies were a lot alike. Like it was so much alike that it didn't leave space for us to grow. So every time we would take a step forward, we would take thousands of steps backwards. And again, this could be because I was 17, 18. So I'm young. This is my first real relationship, and that took a toll in itself. So when you have the same energy as the other person, it doesn't mean that it's going to end in turmoil, but it's something you want to watch out for, because if someone is just like you and you already know what you come with, that's a bit scary. And depending on the situation and your love language, right? So you definitely have to be careful who you love and who you give your love to, and how that love is reciprocated, because sometimes that love can be reciprocated in such a strong and it has like a powerful presence that you forget who you are, and that you forget that you are alone. You forget that you are lonely. And so with that relationship, like I said, it was very toxic, just because it took my mind to places where it's never gone before. I was seeing stars in the middle of the night. I was just speaking in tongues where people, during the day, like, this would just be, I was speaking in the native language where most of the time you don't understand or know what that is. And for me, it's like I knew what I was saying, but as what is above is below, but it's kind of flipped. So what I was saying was not translating exactly to the other person, right? So it would cause a lot of confusion and a lot of stress on my mind and everything like that. So I had to get out. I had to get out. But during my freshman year of college, or high school, whatever, freshman year of college, I started to hang around different people, like new people I've never met before. Started doing different things with them, different interactions with them and stuff like that. So by nature, and in its natural sense, when you're a freshman in college, you naturally gravitate to people depending on the person, okay? But you gravitate to different people because you're excited. It's a new experience. You want to learn different things. You want to learn different people. You want to meet new people. You want to make friends because you've gone this long journey away from home. So it's like, who do I connect to next, right? And it can be very dangerous. And I'm not going to say again that the people I was hanging out with were very dangerous or they were very toxic. But when you don't know yourself going into college, when you don't know your morals, your grounding, your values, the people around you start to shape that for you. So it can, like, that's the part where it can be dangerous, because they can be doing something that in their regular routine that they're used to, that they're familiar with. But when you're not familiar with that, it starts to shape your mind into different places where you've never gone before, as far as in, like, you know, seeing things in your dreams, or speaking in tongues out loud, or, you know, going to somebody else's church and consistently crying and don't know why you're crying. But it's just, that's a whole nother story that I'll get into maybe one day. But the point I'm trying to make is, when you don't know yourself, and a lot of people don't know themselves when they're fresh out of high school, but when you don't have any type of foundation or grounding work, or any type of concrete mindset of what you want to do, who you want to become, or what you want to see in life. And not only that, when you're not connecting or staying connected with your family, like your mom, your dad, your closest siblings, your grandparents, or whomever you're close with in your family, when you don't have that regular communication, all you have is yourself. And at that time, all I had was myself. in retrospect, I mean, there were people around, but again, I was lonely, I was alone, and I didn't know who I was. But I had this spiritual awakening one day, because again, like, I was at someone else's church and I was just crying consistently. And what made me go there was, I was trying to find some sort of healing mechanism. But just because you go to a church, or just because you go to a coffee shop, doesn't mean you're gonna find what you want there, right? So for me, it was like, maybe if I just go to church. Mind you, I don't go to church. my family and I stopped going to church long time ago, just for, you know, liberal reasons, like, you know, and freedom reasons. So going to somebody else's church all of a sudden out the blue was strange to hear by my family members. But for me, it was like, I can't connect with y'all at this point, so I need to connect with God in a way where it's safe. But in all reality, it wasn't necessarily safe for me because, or safe for my depression, or safe for my healing, because it wasn't my church. It wasn't my home. It wasn't what it wasn't how I saw God. And that brings me to the point of, just because you go to church doesn't mean you believe. And you don't have to go to church to believe, okay? Because sometimes church can do the opposite to different people. And for me, that's what it did. So I was just crying consistently. Like, I was at the altar crying. They had to pull me up, tell me to go sit down. Like, girl, you're doing too much. But at that time, I was hurting deeply inside. As soon as I left, you know, I would still be a little fragile, a little shaken up. But I felt like, man, I got all of it out, so I must feel good. I must have that connection with God. Nope. So throughout 2 whole years, I was basically fighting myself, fighting my own intuition, you know, seeing different things. Because once you're awakened, and once you see life totally different, you see prices on a price tag differently, you see the government differently, you see your friends differently, you see your home differently. You don't see it just as a home, but as a sacred place. You see your own inner being differently, not just, you know, this body, but this spirit living this human experience. You see how you drive down the road differently. Like, sometimes that can be scary if you not connected with reality, or your reality. And at that time, my reality was everywhere. So it's like, if I'm trying to connect to all these different antennas, whoo, that my mind is constantly rushing, going. And it needs a stopping point. It needs something to snap out of it. So, of course, I had to see a therapist. I had to go to the hospital. I had to see a doctor, because I was like, yes, I'm awakened, but people don't understand me. And you can't go through life with people not understanding you, because how are you gonna get through life? You know, how are you going to communicate? How are you going to go to places? How are you going to get a job and stuff like that, if that's what you're seeking? But even if you're not seeking those different things, you still have to connect with people in order to move around throughout life. You can't just go through life thinking that you're the only person on earth, okay? And at that time, that's what I thought. I thought I was the only person that mattered. And in retrospect, I was the only one that mattered in my life, because I didn't know who I was. So I was searching in different avenues and ended up on 5th Street when I was supposed to be on Heaven Street, you know what I mean? Or, you know, a godly pathway. But all of that makes me understand that it was a journey that I needed to go through. And that's where it brings me to, like, when you're spiritually awakened, you may feel lost when you're first awakened. Like, you may literally wake up and like, oh my gosh, I don't know who I am. I don't know where I am. And it's different for every person. But for me, that's what it was. So, let's fast forward. We've got treated. We've talked to somebody. I've understood. It took me 2 years to kind of get out of that depression state, because everything was just hitting me so hard. I would cry at the drop of a pen. So let's fast forward to 2017, right? 2017, I was still trying to find myself, but I wanted to connect with God. I wanted to connect with my higher self. Not that I didn't believe in him or her or it or the creator, but I wanted to know where that power lied inside of me. So I was like, I hear all these things on the street, which can get you lost sometimes. And I'm also listening to things on YouTube, which also can get you lost sometimes. But I needed that connection. I couldn't find that connection. So when no one else knows what the heck is going on around me, what do? Pick up a book and read. They always say, if you want to hold a black person back from themselves, put it in a book. Okay, if you haven't heard that saying before, welcome. But so I started to read, and I started to read different books about different things. And one of the books that I was so intrigued to read is the book on Buddhism. And no, I have not converted to any religion or anything like that. But I started to read about Buddhism because it just something just led me that way. My spirit was just in that direction at that time. I wanted peace. And I've always heard, you know, great stories and different different healing mechanisms that the Buddhists practice. So I was like, okay, let me learn just a little bit about what this culture is, because it's not a religion. Like I said, I don't convert to anything. I just wanted to know who I was and how I could connect to my higher self. So I started to read, and one of the practices that I picked up was meditation. Meditation for me it does wonders. I meditated before I did this video. I meditate all throughout the day. It's impeccable the way it heals your mind, because it centers everything, it calms everything down. You're able to focus on things a lot more clear, a lot more stronger, and you're able to see things in a better light. So I started to meditate, and then, you know, even when in meditation, I still wasn't connecting. I still didn't have that connection. So I was like, okay, because I was meditating for 5 minutes, then I was meditating for 10 minutes, and I was like, okay, it's not necessarily when is that connection going to come, but where. So all of a sudden one day I was sitting down and my mind was clear, and all of a sudden I just started listening to my thoughts, listening to the words I was saying, if I was saying anything. But I was also listening to my internal being, the spirit that lies within inside me, my higher power, God, the creator, listening to what he was saying to me. So he, she, or it, created, whatever. But we're just gonna say, you know, what, anyway. But yeah, I was listening to what God was trying to tell me, and that's when I had the connection. That's when it sparked, like just like a switch. It was like, okay, you're feeding my intuition. You're telling me who I am. You're telling me I'm a black woman. I'm spiritually made. I'm beautifully conscious of everything that I do. I move in this way. I like this certain type of thing. I love in this type of aspect. I mean, it was so many answers just coming in, not all at once, of course, but just like slowly progressing into like, and I was smiling as I was meditating. And so I was like, okay, that's my connection. That's where I was missing, that connection to myself. And I do recommend, if anybody is losing themselves, meditate. If you don't meditate, pray. If you don't pray, talk to yourself. Find that inner self, inner intuition, to where you can feel whole again, right? So then we're fast forwarding to 2018, and this is where I started to pick back up my yoga. I've always done yoga ever since 2013. Well, not 2013, ever since I was 13 years old. But I picked it back up strongly in 2018. And when you're connected with your body, you're connected with your physical alignment with the universe, with with your higher power. This is just another way to connect. So I'm not going to get too deep into it, because I have a separate video that I will post for that. But it's a different connection that you have with yourself, because now you're paying attention to what your body is doing, how your body is moving, how fluctuating your blood pressure is going up or down, or your breath is slowing and going faster. or how deeply you're breathing and how controlled it is. So it's another connection to make you understand and realize where you are and how you are placed in this world. So that was 2018, a beautiful year. But then 2019, which was last year, is when I started to tap into spell work, which is basically, you know, how I always stated before, you know, when you say things, you're spelling it out into life. You're putting it into existence. You're making it real to yourself and others around you. So let's say I have a bad day. I'm a mother. Let's say I'm a mother and I have a bad day at work. I come home and my daughter is dancing and prancing all around the house. She's singing really loudly, giving me a headache, and all of a sudden I say, "Stop it. You sing horribly. Your voice is ugly." Like, just frantically. All of a sudden that little girl grows up and never sings another day in her life. And her voice could have been or was beautifully made, but because her mother, someone she idolized or someone that she looks up to, told her that she was ugly in that form. So you kind of cursed her. You kind of put a spell on her by saying that. And for her to undo that, she would have to find herself, find her purpose and stuff like that. So it's when dealing with spell work, you're basically, it's all about what you're saying, how you're speaking life into existence. When you script or when you write in your journal, you're speaking life onto those words, and that's how they manifest into your life in return. Not only that, but then I started to do like tarot cards, and a lot of people associate tarot cards with dark magic or spells with dark magic, but it's all in how you use your words, okay? Because you can use your words badly just as much as somebody can rob a bank, or you can use your words for good just as much as someone can help someone get off the street into a home, right? So there's always the yin and the yang that balances out the universe and your internal self. So for me, in my power, I always like to use my power for good and not evil, because sometimes evil can be confusing, or bad can be confusing, as we've experienced before when you're in a toxic relationship, or when you're in a toxic place, or you're around so many different people that you don't understand. Sometimes it can be very confusing. So to avoid confusion, I like to speak positivity onto my life. I like to speak positive affirmations onto my life. And if you haven't checked out that video, I'll link it up above, speaking about the different positive affirmations that you can give yourself. But yeah, so that's what I was doing. I was repeating a lot of good affirmations to myself. I was meditating very strongly. I was scripting. I was journaling. I was, you know, doing love spells, like where you can do like honey jar spells, sweet honey jar spells, which is, I'll get into that in another video because I don't want this video to be too long, but I hope I'm keeping your attention. But yeah, so I was doing different spell work onto myself, onto my life, and onto the creations that I was doing. So that was 2019, where I was learning a lot about spell work, tarot cards, that side of the realm of the world, right? So 2020, we come in, and it's 2020 is like a vision, right? And it's basically cycling back to everything that I've learned. So what did we go, how did we connect first? We read. And because of that, I have picked up more books than you could possibly ever command. But to me, reading, if you don't know anything else about yourself, pick up a book that speaks mostly to you, whether that's a crystal book, a spell book, a history book, an informative book, a book for dummies. I don't like to use that word, but just any type of book, any spiritual awareness book, any mindfulness book, any communication book, art book, dance book, yoga book, whatever speaks to you the most, pick it up and read it, because then you find that connection to the things and the why to what you're doing. Okay, everybody always question the why, like, why am I doing this? Why do I make this mistake? Or why have I repeated this mistake? Or why do I think like this? Pick up a book, read it, and find your inner self, meditate, you know. But again, a lot of people don't like to chant or meditate or do those different things, but reading is something that's fundamental to everyone, right? So I circled back around to reading this year, circled back around to learning about ancient Kemet, which is ancient Egypt, and about the gods and the goddesses and the Orishas and different things of that sort. And this year has been just a loving year because I've learned so much about myself. I've learned to love myself. I've connected with my higher self on so many different levels, but positive levels and powerful levels, because I'm meditating more, I'm reading, I'm taking a spiritual bath, which I would get into if you guys don't know what that is later. But I'm tapping into my inner source, and that's what's making me produce so much happiness. Okay, so I am happy, I am content, I am gracefully made, and I am so wonderful about what's happening in my life because I am showing gratitude for myself. A lot of times things happen on the negative side because we don't thank ourselves for what we're going through, you know. So you have to thank yourself through the glory and the trials and tribulations, because that's what's going to get you through. That's going to keep you humble, that's going to keep you sane, and that's going to keep you moving throughout life. So I'm going to wrap up this video with some books that I've been reading, and you can judge the book by the cover for yourself, or you can tap in and read them at your local Books A Million or bookstore or local library. So the first one is the Books of Spells. And again, like when you're creating spell work, you can refer to me as books you can, but the realest and the most connection you get with spells is when you make up your own. Like a simple spell can be, I am a millionaire, and you can say that, or you can say I am a money magnet, right? And that'll attract more money than just millions and attract different areas of money, different currencies, right? So you can say I'm a money magnet, and that's a spell in itself. And because you're spelling out the word, you know, we talked about that, how we're speaking life unto words in existence. So the most you get out of spells when you connect to them and you personalize them and you stuff like that. So then we have the Tao Te Ching, and this is just wisdom literature that was created within the Chinese culture. So like I said, I like to learn about different cultures, I like to learn about different religions, and I like to take practices from different things that I learned and add it to my own spiritual healing and my own spiritual awareness, because that's what keeps me flourishing with my spirit and my inner self and my universe, because it helps me understand where I am in life. And again, when you don't know, you read, you seek in so many different places, and sometimes it starts out weird, but then it gets better the more that you continue to be on that road of self-recovery, self-awareness, self-enlightenment, and self-confidence, self-love, and everything like that. Of course, I had to pick up the secret societies, because what you don't know can frighten you, and a lot of people fear the unknown, but if you know, you're aware. And it's all about bringing more awareness, bringing more purity to your life. The Four Agreements has been my favorite book thus far, just because it talks a lot about dark magic and how you can use words in a negative sense, but how you can also use words in a positive sense, and how they can, you know, good karma. You always want good karma, right? So it talks a lot about don't take anything personally, speak proudly, speak impeccably, because Peccable comes from the Greek or Latin word peccasis, which means sin. So when you put M in front of any word, it's like, it's the negative form of that word. So impeccable means without sin. Isn't that interesting? So that's the 4 agreements, just 4 different principles throughout life. Be impeccable with your words, don't make assumptions, and always do your best is the other 3. Say what you mean. I love this book just because it's about feeling confident, staying focused, listening, as I've talked about before, and finding nourishment in your day-to-day interactions. So a lot of times as young people and older people, just depends on who you are, we get tangled in our words. I'm not going to use the other word. But we get tangled in our words because we don't believe in ourselves. We don't believe in, our higher power. We don't believe in, the good we can offer, to other people. So we sometimes are afraid to say certain things or timid about certain situations because we don't feel confident in them. It's a pretty good read. The Power of Now. It just transforms your thinking into making a self-resilient journey to just basically about speaking things into your present tense and speaking things for the retrospect of what you want and how to act now and not later, because later may never come, or later may come in a different form that surprises you and you weren't ready for. The last book I'm going to mention, I have so many books, but these are just a few that I like. The last book that I'm going to mention is From Panic to Power. And I have enjoyed this book because, when you battle with depression for so long and then you come out of it, you produce a certain level of anxiety, right? So I just read books on how to better control that, and a lot of that talks about, let's see, admitting things to yourself, bringing things into your reality, accepting that you are nervous, that you are anxious about certain things, and let it take its course. Don't try to fix it. Don't try to fix yourself so quickly, because that can make it worse. Accept that it's happening, and when you know that something is happening to you, you're likely to be more accepting of it, because now you can see how you're interacting or how you're moving with it. Whereas if you don't know that you're going through anxiety, or you don't know you're going through depression, everything is happening to you, onto you, internally, on your mind. And again, you're going to be like this, going in different directions and not knowing which one is the right way for you, or which path is the right one for you. So that concludes this video. That's just a little synopsis of my spiritual journey. Again, you guys know I've been getting into crystals, the spell work and everything like that. It's just a synopsis, right? Because there's so much that I've tapped into as far as in my reality, my higher self, my universe, my consciousness, and trying to stay awake during certain things, or during all things that matter, which is everything in the world, especially your breath. So I hope this video inspired you in some way. I hope this video helped you in some way, and I hope you was intrigued by my experience. If you like this video, like this video for me with a big thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe before you leave. I hope that you're connecting with your higher self, your God, your creator, and your mental state of mind, so that you can pull out of any and every situation. Because like I always say, if we're not helping each other grow, we're depleting our human race. And if we're not tending to ourselves, you're losing yourself. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Peace.